Welcome to Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and inspire joy. Be empowered to balance your mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health while providing mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. If Joy, and I'm here to help you transform life's challenges into opportunities for joy. Let's begin the journey together. Hey, we're in episode 138. Stress, anxiety, depression. How to tell the difference and what actually helps. Think about it. Have you said to yourself, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I think I have anxiety, maybe I'm depressed, I'm just stressed? Not everything is anxiety, not everything is depression. But also, not everything is just stress either. So sometimes it is difficult to tell the difference because 2 out of 3 is a clinical issue that might need extra help. With stress, it's adaptable. You figure it out. You do self care. You change your routine. You do a little better. With anxiety and depression, you do all those other things, but it's more consistent despite a removal of a stress and might require some type of therapy. And if it's more moderate or severe, could require a medication or both medication and a therapy. So that is why it is important to be able to tell the difference. Is it clinical anxiety, clinical depression, or am I just stressed? What is stress? That is something everyone deals with. Maybe you can get through this life without experiencing depression. Maybe you can get through this life without experiencing anxiety. Not a lot of people do. But stress is something we all go through. And it's our body's natural response to pressure, to demand, to triggers, to things that are just going on, trying to meet deadlines, sudden last minute things that pop up urgently that we didn't realize is going to pop up, making us feel overwhelmed. That is stress. Short-term stress, that is the one that's adaptable. But if there's chronic stress, then that becomes damaging. Again, even that's not full-on clinical anxiety or depression, but chronic stress can still be damaging. So it's important to know when you're experiencing either of these and what to do and what works for you. Stress can be all of a sudden being irritable, right? All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, why am I so snappy? Muscle tension, headaches, racing thoughts, trouble sleeping, snapping at people, and just being easily frustrated. And a lot of that actually overlaps with anxiety, with depression. With depression, you definitely can get headaches and muscle tension. With anxiety, you definitely can get irritable, snapping at people, trouble sleeping, racing thoughts. So there is a lot of overlap with the 3. So it's why it's important to understand the difference. And once you know the difference and what could be going on with you, how to get help and how to do something about it. Stress usually is tied to a specific situation. So if something's going on that's leading you to feel some type of way, stress, the irritability, right? The overwhelm, maybe it's just a stress if it's a specific situation. But if that situation is removed and you are still experiencing those symptoms, maybe it's something else going on. So the removal or resolving that stressor, if it's just stress, those symptoms improve. It could be a work deadline, something last minute popped up, financial pressure. Financial pressure is a very common stressor for a lot of people. Parenting stressors, parenting overload, relationship conflict. That can be a stressor. There's so many different types of stressors out there. Let me name a stressor. Oh, thank you. Someone said they love watching the live after a long day. Yes, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. So, a stressor for me this week is that I Well, actually, let me back up. Let me back up. Let me back up. I work out a lot. I always talk about my running. I run almost every day, every other day. I'm always running. If I'm not running, getting on the bike on the Peloton. If I'm not on the bike, I'm doing the strength training or I'm doing a boot camp that's a mix between the running and the strength training. And people say, well, how do you do that? How can you do that so much? How do you not just get demotivated? Because exercising helps me when I get irritable or me when I get stressed. It is my therapy. It's my zen. It's my medication. It's my reset. It's my everything. Also, when I work out, I'm literally running away from diabetes. I'm running away from pre-diabetes. When I was pregnant with my first child, I had gestational diabetes. And they say that when you get gestational diabetes, you're more likely to have pre-diabetes when you're not pregnant. And when I had my second child, I didn't get gestational diabetes. I'm like, okay, cool. So my hemoglobin A1C last year was a 5.5. That's kind of like right before the when you're gonna get actual pre-diabetes. This week, I go and get labs done. It's up to 5.7. 5.7. What does that mean? That is the lowest level of having prediabetes. So I just found out I officially have prediabetes. Why am I mentioning this? This is a real big stressor for me. Why? Because I work out so much. I'm not supposed to get prediabetes. What are you talking about? As much hard work as I do. What's missing? The diet. It's not just about working out when it comes to combating or preventing diabetes or prediabetes. It's about your diet too. I'd like to think I'm relatively healthy. I drink a lot of water, don't drink a lot of sodas, but I do love sugar. I don't drink it or eat sugars and sweets every day. Of course, I did when it came to Valentine's Day and the holidays, and I eat lots of pies and cakes. And when it's a child's birthday or I'm at somewhere where there's cupcakes, of course, I like to indulge. But the big thing that I realized was it was the smoothie bowls that I've been eating. Those nice little smoothie bowls that are already frozen at Walmart, ready to go. And then I like to put on so much granola and so much pecans. So all those carbs and added sugar add up. But the hemoglobin A1C is representative of the last 3 months. So it's a matter of how I've been eating in the last 3 months. My point is that that was a big stressor for me. I was extremely upset. I became really sad and irritable. I literally broke down. I had a crying fit. Like, are you serious? How do I have this? But I'm fine now. That was just lasted a couple hours. Yeah, a couple hours. I'll say maybe less, but it was a couple hours. But I'm fine now. So that is a stressor where it led to stress as opposed to a consistent symptom that's lasting 2 weeks at a time, 4 weeks, 2 months, 4 months, that kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, I can let myself release and say, okay, I'm mad and I'm grieving this, and then get right back and bounce back and say, okay, fine. What do I need to adjust in my diet to do better? And start to pat myself on the back and give myself grace and say that next year it'll be a lot better. So stress is something that comes and goes. Parenting stress and parenting overload is one of those consistent stressors because as a parent, you're consistently a parent. But there's some days where you are able to handle it better than other days, and you are able to be just fine and not be snapping at the kids, but other times you are snapping at the kids. So it just really depends on what that stressor is and how long it's going to last as far as how you react and what you're able to do about it. So, in a nutshell, stress is more so temporary as far as what is it versus anxiety and depression. Anxiety, I mentioned that there was some overlap with anxiety and stress. Obviously, you can get irritable, snapping. Anxiety is more so a fear response on repeat. When you're stressed out, you're not necessarily afraid or in fear per se. But with anxiety, not only are you in fear, And worrying is just on repeat and it's over and over again. It could be some type of anticipatory anxiety where something is coming up and you're fearful that this thing is going to happen. It could be future focused about what's going to happen in the future or what if, and overthinking or thinking about the past. And it's just like this ongoing repeat of overthinking and racing thoughts, excessive worry that feels hard to control, excessive worry that you cannot stop and that you are not able to control. And it just keeps going and going and going and going. To an extent, a response to stress, regular stress is not anxiety. You kind of have control over how you might react. And if you don't, and you just let go for a couple hours, you come back and you reel it in, like I did with my stressor. But for anxiety, it's difficult to reel in. It's constantly there. It's on repeat. So some signs that it's anxiety and not just stress, the worry just doesn't turn off. You might have panic attacks. You don't typically get panic attacks with stress. An actual panic attack is 10 to 15 minutes of increased heart rate all of a sudden, increased work of breathing, choking, feeling like you're about to die, maybe some nausea, shakes, or tremors. And it's coming out of nowhere. There's not a real trigger. You just all of a sudden get this panic attack. You might have some avoidance behavior. Stress isn't really leading you to avoid something. Anxiety leads you to avoid something. And of course, more so physical symptoms. You do get the muscle tension and stress, but in anxiety, that chest tightness, some GI symptoms, some heart racing, sleep disruption from the racing thoughts. Stress can cause issues with sleep, but you got the racing thoughts and anxiety that is telling you, "Ooh, this might be anxiety." Stress is a response to a demand, to something that just came in and happened. Anxiety is this persistent internal alarm system that just keeps going off despite this demand, despite a stimulus, despite a trigger. Of course, some people have anxiety and they have triggers, but a lot of patients I speak to, they're just like, I don't know. There's no trigger. It's just this anxiety. It's just overwhelming me. Usually, you know what the trigger is when it's stress, but anxiety, not so much. Stress is a reaction. Anxiety is like an anticipation. Anxiety may not be due to something that's happening right now, but like this anticipation of or fear of what's to come. Got it? So let's go into depression. How is depression different from anxiety and stress? You'd like to think that that's easy to distinguish, but there's still some overlapping symptoms to that. Stress can lead to lack of concentration. Anxiety with the racing thoughts can certainly lead to lack of concentration. Sleeping issues you can have with all of those. Depression is like mood, motivation, and a meaning shift, not just sadness. It's not just sad mood. Everybody's allowed to get anxious or nervous. Everybody's allowed to feel sad when something makes them feel sad. But it's sad mood on top of the loss of interest, on top of persistent low mood. When I'm talking to patients, I always say, I don't say like, oh, have you been sad lately? I say any prolonged sadness, any sadness lasting more than a couple of days. Typically, a depressive episode is about 2 weeks at a time. And you also could get low energy, sleeping a lot, or the other way around, not sleeping a lot, brain fog, hopelessness, worthlessness, appetite changes. I'm sure there's people listening that's like, well, I get appetite changes with anxiety. I get appetite changes with stress. Oh, yeah, there's stress eating. You're stressed out about a trigger and you start eating too much. Of course, you can get that. Again, there's overlapping symptoms with all three of these. And difficulty functioning, feeling like a burden. When you're stressed out, you don't necessarily feel like a burden or feel like a failure that you're letting others down. You don't necessarily get negative thinking, persistent negative thinking to the point where you are a bully to yourself. You're critical of yourself all the time. So there's that thought traps that come in with depression. There's overthinking with anxiety, and there's thought traps with depression, also known as cognitive distortions. So depression steals your mind, it steals your thoughts. Anxiety is like your thoughts on a freeway, an expressway, the Autobahn. It's just thoughts going and going and going and going. And then, like, depression literally kidnaps your mind and just takes a hold and puts you in a thought trap and makes you believe things that are really aren't true, really aren't true. I spoke to a patient this week who said that they sometimes feel suicidal because they just feel like it would be easier for their family if they were gone. I listened to them and I said, you know what? That's not true. That is the depression telling you that it would be easier if you're gone. It would be harder if you're gone. No one likes to outlive their child. That's never meant to be. So if you were to take your life, your parents will never be the same. And they just looked and they just thought, like, whoa. But that's depression lies to you. It tells you bad things. It makes you think that you're dumb and stupid and ugly and bad and a failure or inadequate or not enough. Depression just creates false narratives in your mind. Stress isn't necessarily doing that. But depression, ugh, it stills your mind. It traps your mind. Stress and anxiety is like you're activated. You're like your heart's racing, your body's on the go. Depression feels slowed, heavy, numb. Some people have what we call psychomotor slowing. They move slow. They're less engaging. They're withdrawn. They're isolated. They're not talking as much. They're the ones that are in their room, not doing the things that they usually do. Anxiety is more so that too much of the future, too much of that fear of the anticipation of the future. But depression is too little hope for the future. So it's either too much of thinking about the future, anxiety, or too little hope of the future. They can coexist. You can definitely have anxiety and depression. I diagnose people with both anxiety and depression all the time. And luckily, the antidepressants that treat depression, because it's called an antidepressant, also treats anxiety and is FDA approved for anxiety. So the Lexapro, Prozac, Zoloft, Celexa, Cymbalta, Vibrate, all those medications can also treat anxiety in addition to depression. Of course, there's many types of anxieties like PTSD, social anxiety, panic disorder. Did I say OCD? Yeah, OCD. There's so many different types. And so some medications may treat a particular type of anxiety better than the other, but they often can coexist. Chronic stress can certainly lead to anxiety. Untreated anxiety can certainly lead to depression. Burnout can look like depression. And of course, we've got hormones, inflammation, sleep deprivation, all that matter and all that can look like anxiety, depression, burnout, stress, or cause it. So you can jump straight to the depression or straight to the anxiety, or maybe there's some in between there where your burnout or sleep deprivation leads to just stress. So, how do you know what you have? How can you take care of yourself when this happens? What actually helps? So, of course, I'm going to go through practical steps using the Inspire Joy method because that's what I do. I created the Inspire Joy method in the Enjoyno, Nurturing Authentic Living, which is a wellness journal, therapeutic companion with therapeutic worksheets, positive affirmations, self-care tips that can help you. And it's set up through your integrity, I and inspire, nurture your in and inspire, stability, financial, the essence inspire, financial health, your purpose, aspirational health, intimacy, social health, resilience, and empowerment. That is what Inspire stands for. So, as far as how to deal with stress, if you think about your integrity, the I in Inspire, oh, by the way, this is still on sale because of Valentine's Day. Self love. If you love yourself, go to drenjoylife.com. So, integrity is your mental health. What can you do to better serve your mental health? Track the patterns, journal it, Journal it, journal your moods, journal how you're doing. Ask yourself, is this situational or is this persistent? Is this all the time? I mean, the night like I had the other night when I found out I had prediabetes, that's just situational. If I was doing that all day long or all through the day or all through the night, every night, nightly or daily, that's persistent. And that's a problem. Maybe I should get therapy. Maybe I should look into something higher than therapy. But if it's situational, maybe you can consider how you can be able to deal with it and how you can cope. So, first, identifying those triggers and asking, what, if this is situational, what is a trigger? If it's persistent, are there any triggers? And get the therapy when symptoms impair the functioning. So, like if it's stopping you from having healthy relationships or stopping you from work or stopping you from doing your schoolwork or interrupting relationships, social occupational impairment, then that's the sign of getting help. Grounding techniques, engaging your senses, engaging your, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel? What can I taste? What can I smell? All those things get you out of your head when you are surrounded by stress or caught in the racing thoughts of anxiety or slowed by the sluggishness of depression. Grounding is very important. Meditation can help. Journaling. So, integrity is all about how you can work on your thoughts, shifting those negative thoughts to positive thoughts, shifting those negative emotions to positive emotions while you are dealing with stressors. Because stress is going to come. Life is about that. Nobody has a stress free life. So, it's a matter of finding what helps you. And with running, that helps me with my meditation and with my Zen. And of course, that helps me with the physical reset. And that is the N in integrity, N and inspire, nurture, making sure you are working on how you can get good sleep. People come to me saying, well, I want medication for sleep. Well, do you have good proper hygiene? What's your sleep hygiene? What's your sleep routine? And they don't have that. So I'm like, well, let's do that first before we think about a medication for sleep, reducing caffeine, especially if it makes you anxious. A lot of times there's things we put in our body that makes us anxious. I have to watch what I put in my body and watch what's in my diet, not only to prevent prediabetes, but to prevent anxiety and irritability and me snapping at people. I've noticed that if I eat too heavy or if I have Chipotle with high sodium, then that is what's going to increase my stress or lower the threshold for me to have stress or feel anxious. I've been trying out different vegan dishes lately, and I noticed that I feel lighter and happier and less inclined to stress. So, what you put in your body matters. Movement always matters, exercise, and things that nutrition that's anti inflammatory, limiting your alcohol intake. So, all these things are important when it comes to dealing with the stress, depression, anxiety. The S and inspire stability, our financial health. Financial health can be very chronic when it comes to stress because it's not like, I mean, sure, you can have like an acute stressor that has to do with financial, like a flooding in the house that I explained before. That's an acute stressor, but maybe it's a prolonged stressor at the same time if you're continuing to deal with the financial burden of that. But a lot of people, if they lost their job or they just can't make enough money to meet their expenses, can be a chronic stress. Reducing decision fatigue. If you're constantly the one thinking about finances, is there a way for you to have a financial planner or have someone to help out so that you're not the only one making those financial decisions or making any type of decision? Because decisions, that can give you fatigue. That can make you feel drained. Create one small structure this week that can help you feel more stable financially. What's that look like for you? The P and inspire purpose. Aspirational health. Depression improves with behavioral activation. What is the behavioral activation? Behavioral activation is putting the cart before the horse. A lot of people with depression, again, you're slowed, your thought traps, you have less motivation. It is making you feel like I don't feel like doing it. I'll just wait till I feel like it. I'll wait till I feel better. A lot of times with depression, you're not going to feel better until you do the thing. So putting the cart before the horse means doing the thing before you feel like it. So behavioral activation is a type of therapy that's all about having a list of tasks that you do and have to complete that day and realizing that you feel good when you do it. Do before you feel like it. So schedule one meaningful action daily that you can do to help you combat whether you're dealing with stress, anxiety, depression. Intimacy, the second I in inspire. Anxiety thrives in isolation. Depression deepens in the silence of isolation and being withdrawn. Share with someone, share with one safe person what you're going through. Your thought traps might tell you that, oh, they don't care or that I'm a burden. How dare I put what I'm feeling on them? But they care. They care. If there literally is no one because you have no family or you have no friend, that is definitely the time for therapy. Share what you're going through so that you can learn how to deal with it and how to get better because there is another side to your stress, to your anxiety, to your depression. The R in inspires resilience. Stress grows, or stress tolerance grows with small exposures. So the more you bounce back from that stress, the stronger you get. Don't avoid things just because they're uncomfortable, especially in anxiety, because in anxiety, that's the main thing where people avoid, right? That's an avoidance symptom. It might feel uncomfortable, but it means you're learning. That fear is there, but it doesn't mean it's real. It just feels real because your anxiety is telling you it's real, just like the thought traps tell you that those thoughts are true or that they're facts. But just because that thought is in your mind doesn't make it true. So these are all things to remember. Growing in resilience literally means exposure therapy and anxiety is definitely something that people have to go through when it comes to a fear of doing something like social anxiety. Empowerment, the E in inspire. Empowerment just says it all, right? Boundaries, knowing that it is okay and it is a part of your journey to joy to ask for help. Asking for help is strength. Therapy is not failure. Medication isn't weakness. I heard someone say that today, actually. Not today, this week. That getting on medication would be against their self-respect. Is it that getting on medication is against your self-respect, or is it that allowing yourself to drown in your depression, anxiety, or stress goes against your self-respect? You can think of it different ways. Why? Why not get that thing or do that thing that might make you feel better? So when we think about stress versus anxiety versus depression, is it tied to a specific situation, something specific, a trigger? Ask yourself that when you're dealing with something. Can you think of something specific? It's likely a stressor. It's likely stress that you're having. If it's temporary, it hasn't been lasting a long time. Has it lasted more than 2 weeks? If it's lasted more than 2 weeks, could be depression, could be anxiety. Is it interfering with your functioning? Usually when stress starts to interfere with your functioning, it's something more clinical like anxiety or depression. So is this tied to a specific stressor? Specific stressor. Has it lasted more than 2 weeks? Is it interfering with your functioning? If the answer is yes to 2 and 3, which is lasting more than 2 weeks or interfering with your functioning, you should consider professional evaluation. Consider seeing a therapist, a psychologist, a social worker, a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist. Sound like I said the same thing. Psychologist is the one that does only therapy. Psychiatrist is the one that can do medication and therapy. I'm a psychiatrist that does medication and therapy. So that is extremely important. So I hope this was helpful for you to know the difference and for you to know when to ask for help. And you can ask for help anytime you want. You don't have to wait until it gets deep and long and impairing functioning. But just remember, you are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not dramatic for needing support. And you're not broken for needing help. Understanding your brain and what you're going through is how you protect your joy. Thank you for listening. This has been an Enjoy Life production. If you're in a crisis, don't hesitate. Call, text, or chat 988 for immediate support. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional treatment. If you're looking for therapy or medication management through Enjoy Life, visit www.drenjoylife.com to request a consultation. I'm licensed in 13 states. I accept Aetna in Georgia, Florida, and Virginia. Be sure to grab your copy of the Enjoy Note to help you on your wellness journey. Also check out Inspired Joy for the wife, mom, boss to help you balance it all without losing yourself. Better yet, get the full Joy bundle for just $45. Remember, Journey to Joy Live is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, may you continue to transform stress into joy.